10 days, yeah. But let's just jump into it just for one moment. You know, Rama and Sita, his beloved, and Lakshman were in exile for 13 years in the forest. Things were pretty okay. They were having a fine old time. You know, pleasure, pain, loss, and gain to the Lord and the Lordess of the universe. What does it matter? But one day, Ravana, the king of the demons, he decided he had to have Sita. He loved her so much, but that's there. We have a lot of definitions of love, don't we? This was, he wanted her, he needed her, because he knew that she was the divine Shakti. And he had everything. Ravana had everything, but he didn't have the divine mother. He didn't have compassion. He didn't have love. He saw it in Sita, so he wasn't blind, but he was misdirected. But what he did was he did this amazing magical trick. And I'll make it, I won't even go into it. But he abducted Mother Sita, the divine goddess, the divine mother of the universe. He separated Rama and Sita. Yeah, like times 1,000, right? Or times 1,000,000, or times a gazillion. But an amazing thing happened there. Rama, who is the Lord of Lords, the creator, preserver, and destroyer of all the universes, fell into the absolute anguish and despair of being separated from his beloved. How could God, the Lord of Lords, fall into paralyzed anguish? Well, these are questions that people have been asking for centuries and centuries and centuries and centuries. But Rama couldn't proceed. He was so destroyed. He was so depressed. He was so torn apart until he met this young monkey named Hanuman. Now, who Hanuman is and where Hanuman came from, that's also a story for another time. But suffice to say that Hanuman said, Rama, let me help you. Because Hanuman recognized Rama as the supreme being. At first, Hanuman didn't know. He disguised himself as a young priest, a human priest, because he thought, oh, you know, if I jump down the tree as a talking monkey, I'm going to freak these dudes out. So he disguised himself as a young priest, and he says, oh wanderers, who are you, and why do I see tears streaking down your face when you have such a royal, divine countenance? So Rama started telling his story, and somewhere in the middle of the story, Hanuman recognized him. And a thrill ran through his body, a thrill of love beyond any kind of love that any of us would ever experience in 1,000 lifetimes, ran through Hanuman's body, and he started shaking and trembling, and he forgot his disguise, and he turned into this glorious monkey of gold, and he bowed down to Rama, and he said, Rama, let me serve you, but please free me from the tentacles of my ego. And Rama leaned over and lifted Hanuman up and embraced him and said, it is so, it will be so. And from that moment on, this friendship between man and monkey was born. So, yes. So anyway, jumping ahead a little bit. You know, I love to tell you the whole story, but you know, I feel like I can't. But, so, all the monkeys and the bears went all over the world to try to find Sita. Nobody knew where she was. Hanuman and his small band of warriors were at the southern tip of India, and they could not find Sita. And they said to themselves, we cannot go back to Rama without success in our mission. Let's just starve ourselves. Let's just sit here on the coast, on the edge of the ocean until we die. Meanwhile, there was this big vulture up in the cliffs. This vulture's name is Sampati. And Sampati, you know, he was really old. He was one of the ancient warriors. And he was so old that he hadn't been able to eat anything. He could barely fly. He was just sitting there. He was about to die. But he sees these big, juicy monkeys and bears sitting at the edge of India about to die, and he's thinking, oh, well, he licked his, well, I guess vultures don't actually have lips, but whatever he had, he licked them. And he flew off the mountain and decided to hover in front of these monkeys and bears until they died, so he could feast on them. Now, like the moral code of vultures is different than the moral code of humans, so we have to have an open mind and an open heart about that. But it just so happened that one of the bears, his name was Jambavan. And Jambavan is an ancient warrior of the ancient times. The wars, the original wars when the gods and the demons churned the ocean. It was a long time ago. Jambavan was there, as was Sampati. And Sampati's flying toward these monkeys and bears, about to eat them up. And they see each other and they say, Jambavan, Sampati, Jambavan, wow, and they hug each other and say, what the heck are you doing here? I was about to eat you. And Jambavan says that we're trying to find Mother Sita, the divine mother of the universe. She's gone. And Sampati says, no. 2 months ago, I saw Ravana, the 10-headed, 20-armed king of the demons, flying through the air, clutching this beautiful maiden. And she was screaming, Rama, Rama, my Lord, Rama. And she dropped these jewels. I believe that was Mother Sita. And the monkeys and the bears, they said, yes, indeed, that was Mother Sita. So Jambavan decided he wasn't going to eat that day. I mean, not Jambavan, Sampati. But they said, how are we going to get across the ocean? And the youngest, the great monkey warrior, he said, well, I could easily jump over there and get her, but I don't think I could jump back. And the next warrior said, well, when I was young, I could jump. I could jump easy, but I'm old now. That's what I said. And, they get one by one. And Hanuman, who was cursed as a baby to forget his powers, was sitting there at the edge of the sand, looking really blue, really sad. And until Jambavan says, Hanuman, you are the incarnation of Lord Shiva. You are the eternal devotee of Hari. You have power over all the forces of nature. And he goes on and tells reminds Hanuman of his powers. How many times in our lives do we need to be reminded, not necessarily of our powers, but of our compassion, of our love, of our trueness? Well, this was what happened to Hanuman. And Hanuman grew larger and larger and larger and larger. The mountain upon which he was standing started to crush down into the earth, and all the snakes and all the animals that lived inside the mountain were running out, and they were screaming, help, help, the end has come. And Hanuman took Rama's ring that Rama had given to him, a ring that could not be duplicated or imitated or disguised. It said Ram, simply Ram, a name that can't be tarnished, a name that can't become impure. Rama held it in his hand. Hanuman held it in his hands, and he screamed, Jai Ram! Jai Ram! And he flew across the ocean. Now, that's not what I was gonna say. But Hanuman ended up burning down the kingdom of Lanka, and he found Mother Sita, and he brought about the reunion of God and Goddess, of Lord and devotee, of the soul and the infinite soul. And this is Hanuman. So this is called Lanka burning.